Minister, thanks for your time. Let's start with childcare. How seriously did you consider extending the free places to Victorians and indeed right across the country for essential workers?
So what we've done is made sure that all parents can now get access to childcare, because under our free childcare package, what we were finding was the increased demand was putting pressure on our childcare providers to be able to provide places. And when Victoria went into stage 3 lockdown last week, we acted immediately, and for any parent who, because of the stage 3 lockdown, won't send their child to childcare, that provider is able to waive the gap fee. So it won't cost that parent anything for not having their child at home. And we'll continue to monitor the situation in Melbourne. But for the rest of the country, obviously, as the economy continues to open up, we've seen demand for places increase. And that's why we've moved back to our old system, but with transition arrangements in place.
I want to ask you about that in a moment. Just very quickly, you talked about the pressure on the centres. What type of pressure is this move of ending that free care going to place on single parents, particularly women?
So what we've seen under our old system was that it helped female participation in the workforce. We've seen a 7% increase in female participation since it was introduced 2 years ago. So we're confident that it will provide the support there for women, for single parents and for all parents. And we'll continue to monitor the situation.
A lot's changed.
We have seen enrolments increase.
A lot's changed, though, in the last few months, as we all know. I'm just wondering whether that's going to place too much pressure on those single parents that just can't afford it anymore, or have to decide between that and rent.
Look, a lot has changed, and sadly we've seen parents lose hours of work, and in some cases they've lost work. But our system copes with that, it manages that, because if you get a reduction in hours, obviously the amount of out-of-pocket expenses that you pay comes down. And for those parents in real financial hardship, we have the additional childcare subsidy. So I would say to all parents who have lost work or who have seen reduced hours, please get in touch with your provider to see what assistance is there for you.
And just quickly, that's good advice. This recognised activities, you've changed that as a subsidy. What's the key change there?
Well, if parents have seen a reduction in the amount of activity they're undertaking, whether it be work, whether it be volunteering, whether it be studying, we will now compensate for that. So once again, if you've seen a change in your activity, I say to parents, please go to your provider and ask them for additional information about what support might be there for you. And PK, can I just give please a big shout out to all those early childhood educators who will be there today providing care for our young children. What they've done through this pandemic has been extraordinary. 99% of providers across the nation have remained open, and they've provided that vital service for families right throughout this pandemic, and they deserve a big note of recognition.
They do, and so do teachers who are about to start an enormous task. I want to get straight to the point. It seems a long time ago that you were leading this discussion around infectiousness in schools. You were actually attacking the Victorian government on its stance. How many students and teachers have tested positive to coronavirus in this second wave in Victoria? Do you have the number?
Look, I don't have the exact number. You'd have to go to the Department of Health and Human Services in Victoria to get that. But
we will, but let me just take you to my next question. Altaqua College is one of the country's largest COVID-19 clusters now. It's had a big problem with student-to-student transmission, especially among senior students, 17, 18-year-olds. VCE students are going back to school today right across Victoria. What protections have teachers been provided?
So teachers are being provided with the protections that have been recommended by our medical health experts, and that's the advice that we continue to take. We listen to our medical experts. They've said right through this pandemic, that it's safe for schools to be open with the right protocols put in place. And can I just say what the Victorian State Government has done in making sure that schools remain open outside of metropolitan Melbourne, making sure those schools that look after, the specialist schools that look after our children with a disability, providing schools that online learning for Year 12, Year 11 and Year 10 who are doing VCE or VCAL. I think that is the right approach that they've taken. Yep. They've tried to keep as many schools open for as many students as possible, and the federal government supports that.
And just one quick one. This is going to be really tricky in Victoria because it's different this time, isn't it? When they send all those kids back from prep to Year 10, teachers have to be in school, which then puts pressure on those teachers to have their kids. 60% of teachers have school-aged children. Those kids are going to be in school, so it's going to be a lot more kids in school and even more pressure on the childcare system. Have you got the balance right? Are you keeping an eye on Victoria and having those discussions around that balance?
Absolutely. We continue to consult right throughout this pandemic, whether it be with the childcare sector or through Education Council with all state and territories when it comes to schools, and we will continue to do that. We want to make sure that we continue to provide the support that we need so we get that continuity of education for our children through this pandemic. And once again, it was a big shout out for our early childhood educators, but for all those teachers who are going to school today to teach our children, once again, a big thank you to them for what they're doing on behalf of our nation. When it comes to our specialist schools or all other schools, they're providing the education that our children need at this time, and that they deserve a very, very big shout out for all of us across the nation.
Minister Dan Tehan, thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks, PK.